Hey everybody, welcome to a new episode of Loomer Unleashed. I'm your host, Laura Loomer, and on today's episode, we're going to be talking about how Fox News owner Rupert Murdoch has soured on Ron DeSantis, who was once his pick to defeat Donald Trump as the GOP nominee in 2024. Now, if you've been following my Substack and reading my investigative reports over these last few months, then you know and you're very well aware of the fact that Rupert Murdoch is extremely anti-Trump. In fact, some of his leaked text messages from the Dominion versus Fox News lawsuit in the Discovery dump reveal text messages that Rupert Murdoch sent his son, as well as other board members of Fox News, including Paul Ryan, that said that he wanted to unperson Donald Trump ahead of the 2024 election. These text messages also revealed that Rupert Murdoch does not believe that the 2020 election was stolen, and he proclaimed that he wanted to do everything in his power to make sure that Donald Trump was not the nominee in 2024. And then, of course, there were news reports that showed that Rupert Murdoch invited Ron DeSantis out to his ranch in California, where he promised the governor of Florida that he could count on Rupert Murdoch's entire media empire, the News Corp empire, which includes Fox News, New York Post, HarperCollins Publishing, and Wall Street Journal, to get behind his campaign for president. But now it looks like Rupert Murdoch is changing his tune, because as every single day goes by, Ron DeSantis continues to fall in the polls. And now recent polling shows that Ron DeSantis only has about 17% support from Republican primary voters. Ouch. National polling currently shows Donald Trump with a 40-point lead over Ron DeSantis and as the undisputed GOP frontrunner leading up to the 2024 GOP convention. Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist or a high-dollar political strategist to tell you that Ron DeSantis has no shot in hell up against Donald Trump of securing the nomination. But you see, that's where Ron DeSantis and his advisors and donors and people like Rupert Murdoch went wrong. These people greatly underestimated Donald Trump the same way that they underestimated him in 2016. They thought to themselves, gee, Donald Trump's going to get indicted, maybe he'll get convicted, he's going to get arrested, and that's going to make his poll numbers drop. But the exact opposite happened, actually. And the more that Donald Trump gets persecuted and the more indictments that he receives and the more times that President Trump is targeted in these egregious witch hunts, the more he continues to skyrocket in the polls. So this has backfired gloriously on Rupert Murdoch and all of the other billionaire GOP establishment donors who are working overtime to make sure that Donald Trump is not the nominee. Adding insult to injury and what looks like, in my opinion, to be a planted story, who knows, maybe Rupert Murdoch planted the story with Rolling Stone. There's a report out that shows that Murdoch is souring on Ron DeSantis because he can, quote, smell a loser and isn't impressed with Ron DeSantis and his inability to connect with the voters. If you've been following my report over these last few months, then you see I've been documenting how biased Fox News has been towards Donald Trump, even going so far as refusing to cover his rallies while they cover all of Ron DeSantis' events on the campaign trail live. But now even Fox News hosts are taking shots at Ron DeSantis. And this week, Ron DeSantis faced additional questions from other Fox News hosts who pressed the governor of Florida on his inability to connect with voters and how he sees this panning out on a long-term basis throughout the campaign trail. In fact, Ron DeSantis' poll numbers are so abysmal that Vivek Ramaswamy, who's also running for president on the GOP ticket and doesn't have nearly as much of a campaign war chest as Ron DeSantis, is only 6 points behind Ron DeSantis. So perhaps he's going to come up the middle and snag second place from Ron DeSantis, and maybe we'll see Ron DeSantis finish third or perhaps even fourth behind Chris Christie in the GOP primary. It's rather ironic that Rupert Murdoch is now all of a sudden souring on Ron DeSantis because, as I also previously reported, it was Rupert Murdoch, who owns HarperCollins Publishing, that gave Ron DeSantis his multi-million-dollar book deal and book advance during his shadow presidential campaign, which he, of course, pretended was a book tour. And if you recall, on the very first day of Ron DeSantis' book release and the first day of his book tour, where he visited Leesburg, Florida, just 15 minutes down the road from where I live, he actually had the cops called on me and a fellow group of Trump supporters who decided to show up outside of his book signing with Trump signs. So from the very beginning, Ron DeSantis was always running for president, and his little book deal from Rupert Murdoch was clearly just a way to line his pockets, because if you look at the recent expenditure reports, Ron DeSantis went from having a net worth as governor of Florida of $350,000, and just months later, he's now worth over $1 million. So talk about a payday. And I'm sure over time that financial disclosure forms are going to reveal that Ron DeSantis received an even bigger payout than just $1 million. Ron DeSantis' inability to communicate with everyday Americans on the campaign trail is so glaring and so shocking that it has even prompted autism advocates to pen articles and question whether or not Governor Ron DeSantis is on the spectrum and has a form of autism. No, this isn't a joke. There are actually mainstream media articles written about whether or not it's appropriate to talk about Ron DeSantis being on the spectrum. These are serious issues that Ron DeSantis and his advisors are going to have to come to terms with. Is the governor of Florida going to continue to abandon Floridians and be an absentee governor? Is he going to continue to waste hundreds of millions of dollars of donors' hard-earned money? Or will he come to his senses and step aside and recognize the fact that Donald Trump is the only choice and the best choice for the 2024 GOP nominee for president? Now that the writing is on the wall for Ron DeSantis, it's only a matter of time before Rupert Murdoch and News Corp get behind another GOP establishment rhino. Perhaps they'll put their money and their resources behind Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, or maybe they'll put their resources behind Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin. The fact of the matter is that we know from Rupert Murdoch's own text messages that his mission is to make Donald Trump a non-person. And so you can expect, guaranteed, that Rupert Murdoch and Fox News and the New York Post and Wall Street Journal and all of the other Rupert Murdoch-owned publications are going to commit their resources and attention to defeating Donald Trump and preventing him from securing the GOP nomination in 2024. You can take it to the bank. And that's why investigative journalism, like the journalism that I'm providing you with now, is so important, because it's crucial that voters like you have these facts so that you can understand how you're being manipulated by the media. How many of you knew that Rupert Murdoch owned not just Fox News, but also owned the New York Post, Wall Street Journal, as well as the publishing company that gave Ron DeSantis his multi-million-dollar book deal? These are egregious conflicts of interest, and it's one of the many ways that the media shovels their propaganda and their bias and their election interference down our throats in an effort to have selections as opposed to uninhibited elections in this country decided by we, the people. I'm Laura Loomer, and if you enjoyed this content, please be sure you subscribe to my Substack, lauraloomer.substack.com. It's free to subscribe, but if you want to support my independent journalism, you can subscribe for $7 a month or $70 a year. Also, please be sure that you're following me on Twitter, Gab, Getter, and Truth Social at Laura Loomer. I'd also like to take a moment to thank the sponsor of this episode of Loomer Unleashed, Goldco. Banks are getting bailed out, and who's going to pay for it? You are. They say that taxpayers won't pay, and they say that other banks will pay. But how are those banks going to get the money? They'll probably raise your bank fees like they always do. And if the Fed step in, you'll likely also be paying an inflation tax. In times like this, storing all your money in a bank may be very risky, as we have seen. So what can two average Joes like you and I even do about it? You can protect your wealth with gold and silver, just like so many other Americans and even banks are doing right now. Call 855-317-5157 or visit goldco.com/Laura Loomer to learn how to protect your savings with gold and silver. Take action today to protect yourself and your family from financial collapse. Again, call 855-317-5157 or visit goldco.com/Laura Loomer and learn how you could get up to $10,000 in bonus silver while supplies last. That's 855-317-5157 or goldco.com/Laura Loomer. Thanks for watching. See you next time on Loomer Unleashed.